San Francisco is nicknamed Silicon Valley because it homes many of the world's largest tech companies and startups. I spoke to several key figures in the Bay Area media scene to find out what they think sets this West Coast hub apart from older bases like New York on the East Coast.
Going out to New York for Ad Week, that it really struck me around some of those differences between media company and technology company. And I think what you see from us now as we grow and mature is a really nice mix of both. So technology is at our core and DNA, and when you're in headquarters, obviously an engineering center for us where we're really driving most of our product development, but we've also continued to really grow and staff up in New York in particular, and we're very focused on our outreach to the New York communities, agency community, and big brands that also have a lot of resourcing out of the East Coast. So it's fantastic to be where we are today because I do think it's this fantastic mix of technology and media.
What would you say are the advantages of being on the West Coast as opposed to being in the older media hub of New York?
Sort of the obvious thing is being here, based in San Francisco, right in the heart of Silicon Valley and the tech hub. We're right in the backyard of large companies, and so there's a lot of opportunity here that makes it easier to mine being here physically than it is being in New York. So I would say that was probably the most advantageous thing, is just being near where there's a lot of opportunity versus having to fly in. The talent pool here is a little different too. I think there's a lot of digital and technology expertise here that doesn't exist as much. I mean, obviously New York has a huge market, but there's just a lot more of that happening here in the West Coast, and especially in San Francisco.
The difference with San Francisco is the mindset of people in media are very much tech-centric. So it's less, in my opinion, about perhaps the branding side, the creative side, much more about how do you think about technology innovation in this sector? How do you build the next big company? How do you think about using software and automation versus people to get to certain goals? And that's reflected in everyday life. You see people walking the street with T-shirts that say X startup and Y startup. You go to a bar and everyone says, "I'm working for, this great company and founding that great company." Engineers are godlike in San Francisco in some ways, and I think those elements you don't see as much in New York.
You've got offices all over the US. What do you think is the difference between the West Coast and the East Coast for you?
Yeah, so we intentionally had a bi-coastal beginning as a company. We had our engineering set up here and our product, but on a sales standpoint, we always knew that we needed to have New York.
Why do you think that is, that you need to have those two?
Because New York is a media hub. It's where all the publishers and then eventually the advertiser dollars started to centralize. So most ad dollars are spent, both TV and digital, out of New York. And even if the clients or the brands are headquartered somewhere else, they'll just centralize it there. And that's also where the media infrastructure is built, and that's also where the best talent for selling media also comes from. So I think having that DNA of both, product, consumer first, technology, user experience here, and then media, advertising, sales out there, helped us get the best of both worlds.
So San Francisco then, what do you think makes it stand out from older media hubs like New York and London?
I think the technology that is going on here, just the development of technology in general, and the application to just the world at large, is having a huge impact on the type of thinking that agencies have to have out here. I mean, it really is the center of technology, and with it being the center of technology, it causes for agencies to really have to understand how to flex and pivot and work nimbly, and the old traditional ways of working really have to be thrown out in a lot of ways with working with companies. Many of these are venture capitalist backed. They don't have standard processes. Many of them have never even worked with agencies before, whether that be from a media perspective or other advertising agencies. But New York is the center of the universe in a lot of ways as well. And there's a big connection between the New York marketplace and the Silicon Valley and Silicon Beach out here. We're actually really, really well connected, I would say.
What would you say is the difference between the scene over here compared to that in New York or London?
I don't know if there's much difference in terms of we're all trying to do this relatively the same thing, build software for either advertisers or publishers. And if you look at AppNexus in New York or TubeMogul and Rubicon in the Bay Area, the great set of engineers, business models that are well thought out and that serve either the buy side or the sell side. So I don't think there's much difference between, whether we're based here or in New York.